In color, the continuing story of Peyton Place. Starring Dorothy Malone as Constance Mackenzie, Ed Nelson as Michael Rossi, Ryan O'Neal as Rodney Harrington, Barbara Parkins as Betty Anderson, Tim O'Connor as Elliot Carson, Christopher Connolly as Norman Harrington, Patricia Morrow as Rita Harrington, James Douglas as Stephen Cord.
Tonight, Lee Weber was hired as a chauffeur by Martin Peyton, the grandfather of the girl he was accused of murdering. Martin Peyton may have had other, more devious reasons aside from Lee's skill as a driver and mechanic. But Lee has no thought of this. Only he's gotten a job with a good paycheck and whatever future he can make of it. Lee is in the mood to brag. And the audience he craves is Sandy, the wife who has fled from him and filed suit for divorce.
Oh, Ada, real slick, huh?
All you're missing is a collapsible cue stick.
Well, you ought to put a pool table in here, Ada. It might help your business. I'll have a beer.
I told you, if I ever saw you near this place again.
I know you'd call the cops. You got no reason to call the cops, Ada. You don't see me knocking over any tables, do you? Am I smashing glasses on the bar, picking a fight with some drunk?
Ada, could I borrow...
You're really looking great.
Could I borrow a needle and some thread?
In my top dresser drawer, honey. Help yourself.
I got myself a job you just wouldn't believe. I fell into something real wild, Sandy. I'm going to be Mr. Martin Payton's chauffeur. How about that, huh? No more jockeying around a gas pump or hustling a day's work on some stinking mackerel tub. All I got to do now is just drive that big, beautiful car around and put everybody down. What a scene, huh?
How come he hired you?
Well, the old man likes me. Well, you could at least say congratulations.
Congratulations.
Your time is up.
Stephen, aren't you being a little foolish? Your grandfather isn't going to plot a murder.
Didn't say he was.
Tell me exactly what he said.
Betty, he toyed with me. He told me I was responsible for Lee Weber going free. He said my manipulations, my cleverness in court, as he put it, did the trick. That we'll just have to make our own justice.
Isn't that just his way of keeping you off balance?
No.
And he really means it. Stephen?
He knows how much I hate Lee Weber. Bringing him into the same house with me is like rubbing sandpaper into an open wound.
Then you think he did this on purpose?
Of course he did.
Darling, you can't examine everything your grandfather does under a microscope.
Betty, after I saved his life in that fire, he told me I could have anything I wanted. I said I wanted this house, that I wanted to live in it.
He kept his word.
Yes, and that's when I began looking for the booby trap under the doormat. Well, I just found it. A bomb with sideburns.
But if he just wants to hurt you, then why go to the lieutenant governor? Why maneuver to get you appointed to fill out Fowler's term as district attorney? And why did you turn it down?
I don't need his help.
Now who's trying to hurt whom? You're going to have to meet him halfway. If you get your toes stepped on once in a while, don't take it so personally. You knew it would be a risk to move in here. We both came into this with our eyes open.
Well, then keep them open. Don't let my grandfather dazzle you into seeing him as your personal Santa Claus.
All I got in my stocking was something to wear. You got a chance to enter politics.
Chance to enter politics. And a wonderful surprise. A gift way down on the toes. Lee Weber. I wonder what'll be in the final package.
Just as long as we're together when we open it.
Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning.
Norman's still asleep.
Well, he better wake up pretty quick because his breakfast is going to be spoiled.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it looks like. You don't really expect us to eat all this.
Why not?
We're just used to a normal, huge breakfast.
Well, breakfast with the king, dine with the footman, and sup with the pauper.
Farmer's Almanac?
No, my Aunt Lucy.
Don't be hurt if Norman can't eat everything, though. He's not used to breakfasting with kings.
I bet he'll like it.
A nickel?
Okay.
Here, let me take care of this.
No, you're not supposed to do that now.
Rachel, come on.
Dr. Rossi said you were to take it easy.
But I feel fine.
Sit down.
Will this do?
No, sit down.
I was just going to tell you how much fun it is having you stay with us, but now I don't think I will.
It has been fun, hasn't it?
Has? What do you mean by that?
Well, Dr. Rossi doesn't want you under any strain.
Well, I'm not under any strain with you here.
Having anybody staying is a strain.
Somebody who cooks like you do and won't let me wash a dish.
Now, I've made up my mind and I won't be crossed, so let's talk about something else, okay?
Well, Rachel, seriously.
Hush. Come on, sit down. Now, look, I can get a job and place to stay. It's easy as anything because I'm not the fussy type.
Well, maybe you should wait a couple of days. Carsons might have second thoughts and want you to come back and stay with them.
No. I'm not going back to the Carsons.
Why not?
You don't know what it's like. Living in Allison's room, sleeping in her bed, using her things, and knowing all along that Jack Chandler, my uncle, by marriage, not by blood, but my uncle anyhow, is probably the last person who saw her. I can't go on living knowing that they don't know. They're not knowing what happened to her, what he did to her.
What are you going to do? What can you do?
I can find out.
You're kidding. How?
I don't know.
But Chandler told you he'd hurt somebody if questions started being asked.
I'm not going to ask questions. I'm just going to poke around. You haven't told Norman, have you?
Mm-mm. What do you mean, poke around? Poke around where?
Just going to poke around.
What about Chandler? If he finds out, he's liable to just... Rachel, you can't.
Good morning, most noisiest wife in the world.
Sorry.
It was my fault.
Knowing Rita, I know it wasn't your fault. What a feast.
You owe me a nickel.
I thought you didn't like to stuff yourselves in the mornings.
I've never been offered anything like this before.
Don't get used to it. It's back to the same old routine tomorrow.
Why, the cook quitting?
I have to, Norman.
She's leaving.
Well, she just moved in.
I know, but
Raise her wages, promise her anything, loosen her chains, give her a colored television set, but don't let her quit.
the jam.
I guess it's my fault.
Why, don't you feel good?
I feel fine. It's just that she thinks...
Here we go. Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, look, Rachel.
Don't try and stop me, Norman. Please.
You miss her already, don't you?
I'll get over it.
I've been up half the night worrying about it.
I heard you worrying about it.
All right, Connie, stop it, will you?
Your choice of words is very appropriate.
It's the situation that bothers me, not the girl.
It's always the situation, isn't it? The people who get hurt don't count. They're just incidental.
I'm going to ask Rachel to come back. Did you hear me?
Why bring her back?
Why? Because you want her.
Seems that's not a good enough reason.
Oh, I see. All right, then, I guess, let's see. She was our responsibility, at least she should have been anyway. She had no one. She needed us. She was beginning to trust us, etc., etc., etc. And I failed her. Now, would you mind telling me if you want her back?
She'd be under constant surveillance. Your suspicion. Your brand of house arrest. We wouldn't be doing her any favor to bring her back, believe me.
Listen to me, Connie. I'm going to find Rachel, and I'm going to apologize to her, and I'm going to bring her back here.
What if she sees Chandler again?
No, then that's her life. I'm not going to butt into that.
What if you become convinced that she's holding out something about Alice?
Now, what kind of a cross-examination is this, anyway?
I think it's necessary.
Because you don't trust me?
Because it seems to be your nature to...
Hurt people? Distrust people? Connie, listen, when you're behind walls, you begin to build walls. Walls of defenses, walls of reflexes. They're necessary for survival. 18 years is a long enough time to build quite a few walls. That's a roundabout apology for hurting you and Rachel and Allison.
If you think we could really make a home for Rachel, we'll try again. But this time it has to be your decision. You have to want it.
Yes.
Your son Norman to see you, Mr. Harrington.
Set up right in. How are you, Norman?
Fine, Dad.
Rita?
Great.
I haven't seen nearly enough of you two lately. Sit down.
Well, we've been kind of busy. What do you want to talk to me about?
I had a letter from the college guidance office. They tell me you applied for a scholarship loan. They find it hard to believe that the son of Leslie Harrington's in need.
The guidance office said I was going to go through regular channels. How'd you get to be channels?
Norman, legally, you're still a minor, and under my supervision, at least in some matters.
What's that mean?
In this case, it means that my signature as well as yours must appear on the loan application.
Great.
Norman, I offered to help finance your college education. Not as a loan, but as a gift.
Well, I appreciate it, Dad.
You appreciated it so much you wouldn't even take the time to spare me a polite refusal.
Does that mean you're not going to sign it?
Why would you rather borrow money from strangers? What are you trying to prove? There weren't any strings attached to my offer. You don't even have to like me to take my money.
Are you going to sign it?
How much do you need? We'll call it a loan.
Just enough ink to write Leslie B. Harrington.
Are you sure you have the grades for this?
That's my battle, Dad. Let me fight it, okay?
You're being very childish, Norman.
Thanks, Dad.
You're saying I'm not allowed to help my own son.
You could help me if you wanted to.
You haven't been listening very well.
You could offer me a job.
I've offered you jobs.
Offer me one now.
Norman, I've been laying off skilled men.
I just mean working on the docks, like Rod did a year ago.
You can't be serious. One day, loading and unloading trucks in that sub-freezing weather with the wind blowing in your face.
Try me.
Norman, I don't have any openings, and I don't believe in creating them even for you.
What about Chandler?
Well, there happened to be a job open.
Less than a week ago?
Yes, less than a week ago. The man needed the work. Why shouldn't I have given it to him?
Do you know who Chandler is?
Some burly fellow with a strong back. That's all I needed to know about him. It wasn't a job that demanded any skills.
Or even any character references?
Well, if you know anything about Chandler, that would disqualify him.
Do you know Rachel Wells, the girl that's staying with the Carsons? Jack Chandler is her uncle, by marriage. He treated her so bad that she ran away from him. She's scared to death of him.
The girl isn't even living with him now.
This is a small town, and he's hanging around.
Are you suggesting that I fire Chandler?
If he didn't have a job, he'd have to pack up and move on.
Norman, I can't establish that kind of precedent. If the man does his work well, I can't interfere with his personal life. My authority doesn't extend beyond this mill.
Okay.
What do you want?
Tank full of gas. You check the oil and water. Please.
You have cash?
Cash.
And don't tell me you're leaving town.
You wish I was, don't you? Sorry to disappoint you.
You know, sometimes I just know I'm gonna get up on the wrong side of the bed.
I don't need any of your lip, kid.
Well, you don't need any oil either. Let's see about your water. Water's fine. What else can I do for you, Mr. Chandler? Wash your windows?
Please. Don't pay to start out on a long trip with dirty windshield.
So they say.
I'm going out to see a man about selling a farm. I hate to do it, kind of. We had 10 fine years out there, you know? 10 fine years. Enough to break a man's heart.
You must have your gauge off a little bit. Your can tank's half full. That'll be $2.50.
There you are.
Hi, Mr. Carson. Sorry about the light.
Rachel here?
But come on in.
Thank you.
You want some lousy coffee, Mr. Carson?
Oh, thanks, Norma. I just wondered if you'd heard from Rachel at all today. I mean, shouldn't she be home by now? I noticed the light isn't on outside. Perhaps you're not expecting her.
Rita, didn't you tell him?
Tell me what?
Well, it's not my place.
She left this morning.
I look for a job, I know it.
Nope, she went to find another place to stay. We expected her back for dinner, but, well, she didn't want to burden Rita.
Why didn't you tell me that?
You didn't ask me.
She must have said something. I mean, I've talked to everyone, and nobody's even seen her. She must have said something. There must be some indication of where she was going.
Nope.
What about you, Rita?
I don't know any more than Norm does.
But supposing you were Rachel, where would you go?
We're about the only friends she's got that haven't somehow hurt her. I mean, she couldn't go to you. And Dr. Rossi took your side when she went to him, and she wouldn't go to Rod. There isn't anybody.
I don't know. I just can't help feeling that she must have said something. You don't think she could have just left, do you?
I don't know.
Maybe she went back to the farm.
She wouldn't do that. She hated that place.
Why would she want to do that? The last time I was there, the windows were all boarded up.
Well, that neighbor, you know, the one that visited her in the hospital, Mrs. Burroughs?
Yeah, she did kind of like her. Maybe he's right.
Maybe it's worth a try. I don't know.
Well, if we hear anything, we'll give Mrs. Carson a call.
Yeah. Thank you both.
Mr. Carson, have you ever thought that maybe Rachel can't come back to live with you?
But why?
Maybe she's trying to protect you.
I don't need the protection of an 18-year-old girl, Rita.
You know a lot more than you're saying, don't you? Okay.
J.F.
You homesick, honey?
Preview from the continuing story of Peyton Place.
Believe me, Rod, he'll never get it through his head that Sandy really wants to divorce him. And if you're not really serious about Sandy, is it going to be worth it?
You and I are going to stick close from now on.
What do you mean?
I'm not going to let you run out on me this time.